Well, in today's gospel passage, the very front or start of that passage is Jesus saying, "If you love me, then you will keep my commandments." So one of those if-then statements. And it seems to me that it naturally raises the question in our minds, well, what are those commandments? And how is it that we show our love for Jesus by keeping his commandments? What are those commandments? So if you call back to your mind what he gave to us as his commandments, he said that you might love one another as I have loved you. This is my commandment. You think back to the summary of the law in the Book of Common Prayer that we used to have each week with the when it was Eucharist. Our Lord Jesus Christ said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." So that all of his commandments are about how we ought to love one another. And that is how we show our love for Jesus, is that we put his love into action in our own lives. I am constantly amazed at the initiatives in this parish during these COVID days and shutdown days of the love that is being put into action for other people, so that whether and you think about our parish more broadly, what we have done with our grounds, our property, our community gardens, every resource we have here is being made available to people so that our love can be put into action. And it doesn't always have to be big things. It can be little things too. A smile with somebody, a phone call, simple little things, especially during these days. I was reading a story the other day. I can't remember where I was reading this, unfortunately, but a clergy person who mentioned that she was out walking, and one of her neighbors, who was an elderly lady, happened to be at her front door. And so this clergy person asked, of course, well, how are you minding the social isolation and being shut in? And this elderly woman started to laugh as in her response, and she said, "My dear, for the last 10 years of my life, I've been living in social isolation, and people have been avoiding me. And now all of a sudden, people are actually being kind and nice." And I've thought, it is the little things, putting love into action in little ways, that really changes people's lives. It's love being put into action that lifts up people who are feeling a little bit down. And it seems to me that we grow in that love, especially through contemplative prayer. So that when we sit in the silence, start of the day, the end of the day, and think over our day, when we sit in the silence, then we are confronted maybe with where through the course of this day have I succeeded at putting love into action, and where over the course of this day have I failed at putting love into action. And again, it's the little things, the teeny things. And we are sustained in that life through prayer. It keeps us going. But one other thing that it seems to me is a benefit to our to nurturing and building our prayer life is so many people are suffering tremendous loneliness these days because of social isolation. And I find that as I pray through the parish list, and then there are a number of people with particular concerns, that when you spend some time in the silence, and the time in the silence thinking about that person's concerns and the burdens that are weighing them down, it's like they become present to you somehow. And I think it counters loneliness, so that not only the benefits to it are not only that we grow in love, but it also benefits us in feeling a little bit more connected with one another. And so I love these simple sort of statements that Jesus makes. It is such a simple and to the point thing. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And those commandments are about love one another just as I have loved you. It's a simple little thing. We have, through the centuries, so complicated up what Christian life and Christian living and that is about. It's a simple thing. Can we put his love into action the same way that he did? Amen.